Hi, thank you for joining me for this process video, and today is another process video for Scraptember 2024, and today's prompt was to use a new supply. So I'm using my new stamps from Hey Little Magpie and also Vicki Boutin's Bold and Bright collection, which is probably the latest collection that I've had. So I'm scrapping a photo, you probably saw it very briefly at the beginning there, of me on our balcony on our recent cruise. I had this wonderful dress on from Calm Amongst the Chaos, and I wanted to take a picture to show it off for them. I absolutely love that dress, and it was perfect in the heat in southern Italy. So that's what this photo is. So Ross took some pictures of me prancing about on the balcony and this was one of the best ones, so I thought I would document it. It's a yellow dress, so I'm focusing in on the yellows. So I pulled out 3 of my yellow distress oxides in antique linen, scattered straw and fossilised amber. And you can see I'm just stamping with various stamps all over the background on the right hand side of the page where my photo is going to sit, using all 3 colours and varying stamps across it. So a few friends of mine and I were talking the other day about scrapper's block, if you like, and what you do when you get stuck in a rut and you're not quite sure what to do. And one of the things that we all said we do is look at Instagram, and we also look at Pinterest and look for inspiration. So with that in mind, I went onto the Hey Little Magpie blog to look at the design team's work, and I've popped the layout in the top left hand corner there. It's a layout from Jackie, and you can see she's used the chevron stamps from Hey Little Magpie to point towards her photo, and that sort of gave me the inspiration for this. The other inspiration that I gleaned was from Julie Taylor, who creates wonderful mixed media backgrounds, and she's shown me this technique before where you stamp and then use water to let the colours bleed together. I'm not as proficient in mixed media as Julie, but I like to give it a go. So that's what I'm doing with this layout. Now, I've not gessoed the page or anything. If you add gesso to the page, the colours are going to run much more freely, but I just wanted a little bit of bleeding rather than having the colours running freely like Julie's done in the past. So there you can see I just sprayed water all over the background, and I left it for a good 5 minutes to sort of bleed out, and now I'm just using a wet paintbrush just to help those colours move around a little bit more. And then I'm going to come in with some splatters with the fossilised amber, which is the darkest yellow, just to add a little bit more yellow about the page. And because the paper's wet, these splatters will bleed out and merge into the other colours. So just checking that I'm happy with the coverage and that the photo is going to cover that gap that I've left in the middle. And now I'm coming into my Bold and Bright project pad. I've just got the project pad at the moment. I should probably get some of the papers as well, but I just thought I'd make a start with the project pad. So I'm matting my photo onto white cardstock. It's just a scrap of white cardstock just to make it stand out a little bit. And then the first mat I'm going to create is using this lovely yellow striped paper. There are a lot of these semi-solids in the project pack, which is great if you enjoy semi-solids, which I do, but it does mean that there aren't quite so many pattern papers. Probably half of them are the solids, but they're great for matting and layering, and also using as base pages as well if you like that sort of thing. So you can see I'm just flicking through to see what else there is. I was contemplating using this heart paper, but I really wanted to stick to the yellows and blues and greens that are in the picture. You've got the green of the flooring on the balcony, the yellow of my dress of course, and then the blue of the sea and the sky in the background. So first of all, matting onto that stripy yellow, and then using this piece but focusing on the green and the stripy neutral to create my second layer. And you can see the first layer I offset to the left hand side, so this second layer I shall offset to the top and right hand side, and that just hides the pink that I had in that block. You can just see it on the bottom left hand corner. I didn't want that to show really, so I'm just hiding that by doing some clever matting. And I'm just dressing the edges as I go. Now I cut this slightly too big, so I'm just going to trim down the top a little bit and then distress the edges again. And once I've distressed these, I just felt that I wanted one more layer. So I'm going to go back through that pad and see what else I can find. Just scuffing up those little edges that are showing on that first piece. And at the front of the pad, there are these gorgeous foiled papers. This is actually an emerald green with gold foiling, but my light is throwing it off somewhat. It's like a holographic gold foiling. So I'm just using that as a final mat across the whole of the block, so it shows on all 4 sides. And once again, once that's stuck down, I shall distress all the edges, and then we'll see if the paper is dry yet. It's a very hot day in Warrington today, so things are drying quite quickly and I'm sweating. So almost there with the distressing. As ever, I'm using my Tim Holtz edge distresser to get those edges all scuffed up. And then I'm just going through the paper one more time just to see what else I've got in here. And I settle on this piece. It's got all the words over it, and this is what I want to use to stamp my chevrons. I decided rather than just stamping them onto white cardstock, I wanted to have some texture in the background. So by stamping onto a pattern paper, you still get those patterns showing through, but with the colour of the ink that you choose for the chevrons. So you can see as I stamp it down, it just turns that white yellow, but you can still see all the words through it. And that's the look I was going for. So I'm going to cut these out with a slight border around the edge, just so that some of the white does still show, scuff up the edges and get those stuck down onto the page like Jackie's layout that you can see there. So there's the third chevron going down, and then I'll just grab my big scissors and cut that out. So just cutting it out as a block, and then I can trim down the individual chevrons here. So there's the first one. Doesn't take long. Just trying to tidy up around myself as I go, of course. I'm getting a real mess if I don't. So just trimming this last one out now. And that's the chevrons done. So this is how it's all going to look on the page. So I'm just going to choose my title, and I spotted on the foam stickers this "Take the pictures to capture the memories." At first I was going to lay it over the chevrons like Jackie has, but because it's all white, it just doesn't look as clean as Jackie's looked. So in the end you'll see I decided to put it underneath the chevrons, but her layout really did provide a lot of inspiration here. So really pleased how that's looking. Just want to make sure that the words are the right way around on those chevrons, and then I can get them stuck down. I also want to add a little bit of pattern paper to the right hand side of the page, so I decided to cut out some of the circles from this pattern paper from the project pad, once again focusing on the blues and yellows in the photos. So just using my T-square ruler to check that I get everything straight, and then I remember that I wanted to add some black ink images. So I've got my travel tab stamps from Ellie's Studio here, and I'm just choosing a few phrases that work with the picture. I've got one that says highlight, one says exploring the city, one says a fun treat, and I'm just going to, and things to do I think was another one. I'm just going to stamp those randomly in my archiver link across the page, and also there's this little geo tag which looks really cute. Now some of these will be covered up, but that's fine. It's just adding a bit more interest to the background. So just going through, as I say, and choosing each phrase and just stamping it a couple of times around the page. This is a brilliant stamp set. If you're in the market for a stamp set, I would highly recommend looking at Ellie's Studios. We stock them here at Hey Little Magpie, and they are absolutely wonderful. So almost there with the stamping. I think that one's a fun treat. I don't want to go overboard, but I did want to bring some of the black into the background. One more. And I'm using archiver links so that it doesn't bleed when I add some more mixed media over the top. I want these images to be nice and crisp. So there we go, that's that done. So now I'm using my T-square ruler to get this photo stuck down. I want to make sure that it's straight on the page, and then I can come in with these chevrons. So I wasn't convinced. The paper's slightly warped from the water that I added before, and I wasn't quite convinced that it was straight. It was, but it just shows sometimes the naked eye can make things look a little bit unbalanced, can't it? So again, using my T-square ruler just to check that I'm happy with the positioning of this chevron, and straight away I managed to get it stuck on the ruler. But that was easily remedied, and I put it back where it was supposed to be. So now I've moved the T-square ruler to the bottom of the chevrons, just so that I can make sure that they're lining up against one another as I pop them down. And you can see there, I'm just using the my fingernails just to rough up the edges of that paper. It's quite a thin paper in the project pad, so it's very easy to just rough up with my fingers rather than messing about with my edge distresser. So there's the last one just going down, and again using my ATG gun. I'm really enjoying using that now to get things stuck down on my layouts. So I decided I wanted to add a little bit of definition to those chevrons, so I'm just going around with a couple of doodle lines around each edge of the chevron, on all three of them, and just, as I say, just 2 lines along each edge. Doesn't take long, but it really does define those shapes. Almost there. I think that's it. So now I can go back to these circles and semicircles. So there was the first one that I cut off that was on the edge of the paper, and then I'm just going to go back through and choose a few different ones. So first of all, they're sort of orangey yellow. This one that's going to tuck under at the bottom, and I'm going to distress the edges the same as I have with everything else on the layout. So just using my edge distresser for this one. I think I do revert back to my fingernails actually after I've done that. So just popping that one down at the bottom, just underneath the bottom of the photo ever so slightly, and then back in and doing this pale blue one. I think is it the pale blue one? I'm struggling to see. It's such a small image. Oh no, it's an orange one first of all, and then I do a pale blue one next. So just popping that at the top of the page. And here's where I see that pale blue one. So that's going to go at the top as well. First of all, I decide before I go much further, I really do need to get that title stuck down. So as I mentioned, rather than adding it over the chevrons, I'm just going to add it overlapping the very bottom and then overlapping the photo, and that just ties it all together really nicely. There we go. So then here's that blue one that's going to go at the top there. And I'm just using just a daub of ATG each time to stick those down. I like the dimension that you get from not sticking everything absolutely flat on the page. So this navy blue one now is going to go at the bottom of the photo. So back to my edge distresser. There is no rhyme or reason. There we go, and that's just going to pop down there. Another blue one for the top. And I should probably take this sheet and just watch the telly and cut the rest of them out so that I've got them for future layouts. Now that I've started trimming them out, they're probably best all cut out. So that little blue one's going to go at the top. And then I just find a little, well, it's less than a semicircle to add to the very bottom of the page. And I'm going to take that off the page just so that it looks like it's a continual line of these circles falling down. So again, just using the ATG to get that stuck down. So while I'm doing this, please do check the description box to see the playlist for Scraptember. There are lots of people playing along and they add their videos every day. So it's growing as September goes along and more prompts are being used. So here I've just cut with black cardstock one of the Hey Little Magpie dies. This is the Bumpy Borders die. And I'm just going to tuck that down the right hand side of the photo. I just felt like it needed something on the right hand side there. So just bending up the edges ever so slightly just to create a bit of definition. And then going in with the papery pieces. Now I didn't use many of these in the end, but I just wanted to have a look through to see if there was anything that I could add. I didn't want this page to be too busy. It's already looking quite busy with all that mixed media in the background. So I've got a little tab for the top of the page there, and I've also pulled out a little heart that you can see at the bottom of the page. And I've just added my journaling underneath the title, and then I'm going to add my date with my roller date stamp to that tab. And that's just going to tuck in under the photo there. And I'll add that heart as well. And then I come in with my Tim Holtz word fetty, and I find a couple of phrases that I want to add. One says, first of all, that summertime one that I've added to the photo is actually from the project pad. But then I add one at the bottom that says, don't forget to fly, and then one at the top that says, remember to play. So just a little bit of fun about this photo and this little photo shoot that I have with Roth. Just checking that was straight. And then I'm coming in with the foam stickers and just adding a couple of the gold bits about the page, a few hearts and a few stars. And there's that heart from the paper e-pack. I think that might actually be a washi heart, but I decided just to stick it straight to the page without tearing the backing off. So last little bits, I'm going to add some splatters of gold watercolour paint. And then once that's done, I'm going to come in with my Tim Holtz watercolour pencils and just add some black splatters, just using a tiny paintbrush, just to add those to the background. And then when I've done that, I realised that I wanted to add a little bit more black stamping. So I wouldn't recommend doing this after you've added splatters, but just very carefully, I come in with a chevron stamp from Hey Little Magpie and just add a few chevrons in that archive link about the page, just so that they're pointing towards the right hand side of the page. And that's the layout done. I hope I've provided some inspiration. Thank you so much for joining me, and I shall see you again soon. Bye.